On what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, a 7 months pregnant bride in a white silk gown stood at the altar, holding her bouquet. But instead of reading her vows, she pressed a hidden button. Suddenly, the church speakers filled with her groom's voice, laughing, moaning, admitting he was only marrying her because of the baby. Guests gasped. Phones shot up to record. And then, in front of everyone, the bride turned, pointed at her own bridesmaid, and said, "Meet the woman he betrayed me with, my cousin." The Carter household was alive with noise, the kind of noise that only came when a family was preparing for something bigger than themselves. It was a Friday night in Atlanta, the kind of warm evening where neighbors sat on porches and music drifted from passing cars. But inside the Carter home, it was pure chaos, joyful chaos. In the kitchen, two aunties argued over seasoning, their voices rising above the sizzle of hot oil where chicken wings fried in cast iron pans. From the backyard, cousins laughed as they strung fairy lights along the fence. A group of younger girls practiced dance steps in the living room, their sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Every corner smelled of food, perfume, and excitement, and in the middle of it all, Sophia Carter sat quietly on the edge of her childhood bed, her cream-colored gown brushing against her swollen belly. 7 months pregnant, she was radiant in a quiet, effortless way. Her smile didn't come easily tonight. It was the kind of smile that tried to hide exhaustion. Her white veil hung from the door like a silent reminder of the morning ahead. Her hands kept circling her belly, tracing invisible patterns over the life growing inside her. She whispered things only her baby could hear, promises of love, of a better tomorrow. Tomorrow was her wedding day, the day she was supposed to become Mrs. Sophia Kane, wife to Marcus Kane, a man she believed had finally given her the love she had always longed for. The thought made her lips curve slightly. Marcus was polished, smooth, the kind of man who always knew what to say. He made her laugh, he made her feel safe, and he never let her walk alone in her fears. When she confessed to him that childbirth terrified her, he squeezed her hand and whispered, "You're my whole world. I'll be there." That was enough to keep her holding on. The door to her room creaked open without a knock. It was Jasmine Carter, her cousin and childhood shadow, chewing gum like she owned the air. Jasmine never knocked. She always had the kind of energy that burst through doors uninvited. "You're just gonna sit here till morning?" Jasmine flopped onto the bed beside Sophia. "Curl, you don't even look excited. Shouldn't you be doing something special for your groom?" Sophia smiled faintly, adjusting her gown. "What kind of special thing?" Jasmine rolled her eyes, snapping her gum. "Marcus is at the Marriott tonight, right? Why don't you sneak over, give him that gold watch you bought, and maybe write him a sweet little note? Blow his mind before tomorrow." Sophia shook her head gently. "I'm tired. Jazz, my legs hurt. I've been on my feet all day." "Exactly." Jasmine leaned in close, her perfume heavy and sharp. "That's why it'll mean even more. Do it for love." Sophia hesitated. Showing up unannounced felt strange. "You think it won't be awkward, just showing up at his door?" Jasmine crossed her arms. "He's your man. You're carrying his baby. If there's anyone who should be knocking on his door tonight, it's you." For a long moment, Sophia looked down at her hands. Her nails, painted a soft rose color, tapped nervously against her gown. Finally, she exhaled. "All right," she said softly. "I'll go, but I'm not staying long." "Good girl." Jasmine grinned wide, her teeth catching the light. The Marriott stood just past a fuel station, across from a tall glass bank tower that glowed like a beacon against the night. The hotel's golden lights washed the parking lot in a soft, elegant glow. Sophia stepped out of the Uber, careful with her steps, one hand supporting her belly, the other clutching a small paper bag. Inside it was the gold wristwatch she had saved up to buy, and a folded handwritten note that read, "Tomorrow begins forever. Love, Sophia." Her heart beat faster as she walked across the marble-floored lobby. The receptionist looked up, her smile professional but curious. "Good evening," Sophia said, her voice soft. "I'm looking for Mr. Marcus Kane. He checked in earlier today." The receptionist tapped quickly on the keyboard, then smiled politely. "Yes, Mr. Kane checked in this evening, but he's not alone. His instructions were very clear. No interruptions." Sophia blinked. Her smile faltered. "Not alone?" The receptionist nodded, her tone steady. "Yes, he came in with a woman." The words hit Sophia like a slap. For a second she stood frozen, as if her body refused to understand. A woman. No, she told herself. Maybe it was his sister. Maybe a planner for tomorrow's wedding. Her chest tightened, but her face stayed calm. "Thank you," she whispered, stepping aside. She pressed the elevator button with a trembling finger, staring at her reflection in the shiny doors. The face that stared back at her looked calm, but her eyes betrayed the storm inside. "Don't jump to conclusions," she told herself, but something deep inside whispered, "Go up. Don't ignore this." When the elevator dinged, she stepped in and pressed a 7. The seventh-floor hallway was cold, the kind of cold that seeped through silk and into skin. The red carpet muffled her footsteps, but her slippers still made a soft tapping sound that echoed in her ears. She passed room 708, then 710, then stopped. Room 712. Her breath caught. Voices filtered through the door. Muffled laughter at first, then something sharper, moaning. Her hand flew to her mouth before sound could escape. Her knees wobbled, but she leaned against the wall, pressing her ear closer to the frame. Marcus's voice came through clear, smooth, and cruel. "Sophia is too emotional these days, always talking about our future. I'm only marrying her because of the baby. If she wasn't pregnant, I'd be out." A woman's giggle followed. Jasmine's laugh, sharp, familiar, unmistakable. "You're wicked," Jasmine teased. Marcus chuckled. "She thinks this is love, but she's nothing without that baby. Once the wedding's done, I'll control everything." More moaning, kissing, the bed squeaking. Sophia's lips trembled. Her eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and with steadying breaths, pressed record. The audio captured everything. Marcus's mocking words, Jasmine's laughter, their betrayal laid bare. For 6 minutes she stood there, stomach tight with nausea, her free hand gripping the curve of her belly. She wanted to scream. She wanted to kick down the door. But instead, she held the phone steady, recording every second. When it ended, she backed away slowly, like a ghost retreating into the dark. Back in the elevator, she stared at the glowing G button, her phone still recording the silence of the hallway. She placed her hand gently over her stomach, but this time it wasn't in joy, it was in protection. The Uber driver glanced at her pale face when she climbed in. "You okay, ma'am?" Sophia nodded silently. "Pharmacy?" she whispered. She bought tissues, a bottle of water, and a memory card. In the back seat, she copied the recording onto it, then backed it up to her email. Every click of her phone felt like another brick in the wall she was building to protect herself. "Finally," she whispered, almost to herself, "I am not the fool you think I am. Marcus, tomorrow, I'll show you." Sophia didn't sleep that night. She lay in the darkness, staring at the wall, replaying the recording again and again. Each time she heard his voice, each time she heard Jasmine laugh, it cut deeper, but she did not cry. Not one tear. Her belly shifted beneath her hand. Her baby kicked softly, as if reminding her of her promise. "I'll protect you," she whispered to her child. "I swear, no one will ever use you to hurt me again." The fan above her head turned slowly. Crickets chirped outside. Inside her chest, fire burned steady. By 5:12 a.m., Sophia sat up, her mind clear as glass. While the house bustled with women peeling yams, decorators tying ribbons, and gospel music blasting from speakers, she moved like a shadow, silent, focused. She dialed a number. A deep, slow voice answered. "Sophia? Everything okay?" "No, Uncle Raymond," she said. "I need your help. Please don't ask questions. Pull your investment from Marcus's business. Do it before it's too late." Aram, there was silence. Then his voice came steady. "Did he do something?" "Yes, but I can't say it over the phone. Please, trust me." "I trust you. I'll take care of it. Are you safe?" "I am now." "Good. I'm proud of you." Her throat tightened, but she said nothing more. She hung up and dialed another number. Her lawyer. "Barrister, I need the marriage license canceled. Withdrawn from the registry completely. Not valid for even 1 second tomorrow." There was a pause. "Sophia, are you sure?" Her voice didn't shake. "I've never been more sure in my life." "All right, I'll make the call before the registrar's office even opens." Sophia ended the call, closing her eyes. The weight on her chest lifted slightly. She would not wear Marcus's ring. Not ever. When Jasmine entered her room at 8 a.m., carrying plates of jollof rice, Sophia forced a polite smile. "You didn't eat dinner, so I brought you something," Jasmine said, her grin too sweet, her eyes too quick to look away. "Thank you," Sophia murmured, setting the plate aside untouched. "You okay? You look tired." "I couldn't sleep," Sophia replied. "It's just nerves. Big day tomorrow." "Yes," Sophia whispered faintly. "Big day." As Jasmine adjusted a bracelet on the table, Sophia studied her cousin quietly. Every smile, every dart of her eyes, every twitch of her fingers screamed guilt. But Sophia said nothing. Not yet. When Jasmine left, Sophia locked the door, turned to the mirror, and whispered to her reflection, "Tomorrow, I'll show you who you played with." And with that, the night before the wedding came to a close, not with tears, but with a woman sharpening her silence into a weapon. The sun was rising over Atlanta, streaking the sky in shades of pink and gold. For most brides, this was the morning of dreams. For Sophia Carter, it was the morning of war. The compound outside buzzed with energy. Women peeled yams on wooden stools, their laughter mixing with the hiss of hot oil. The decorator arrived early, hauling boxes of ribbons and flowers through the gate. In the kitchen, gospel music blasted from a speaker, the choir's voices sharp with joy. It was the soundtrack of celebration, of family, of union. But upstairs in the guest room where Sophia had locked herself away, the atmosphere was heavy, silent, deliberate. She sat on the edge of her bed, her wedding gown folded carefully across a chair. The veil shimmered faintly in the morning light, waiting for her to wear it, but she had no intention of wearing it for a lie. Her phone buzzed. It was her lawyer. She answered quickly. "It's done," he said. "The license is canceled. Officially withdrawn. Even if a pastor prays over you two, it won't be legal." Sophia closed her eyes, relief rushing through her veins like cold water. "Thank you." "You sure you're okay?" "I will be," she whispered, and hung up. For a moment she sat still, listening to the music drifting through the walls. She thought of Marcus downstairs, probably rehearsing his vows in front of the mirror, smoothing down his velvet suit jacket, smiling into the phone as if he wasn't a liar. The thought didn't make her cry. It made her sharper. At 8:30 a.m., Jasmine pushed into the room again, her gold bridesmaid dress glittering in the sunlight. Her smile was too wide. "You're not dressed yet?" she asked, her tone teasing. "Everyone's waiting to see the bride glow." Sophia tilted her head, studying her cousin. "You look happy," she said quietly. Of course I'm happy. My cousin's getting married to a wonderful man. What else could I be? Sophia's lips curled faintly. Loyal, she murmured. Jasmine froze. Just for a second. Then she laughed too loudly, brushing off the comment. Girl, you must be nervous. Don't let it get to you. She fussed with the bangles on her wrist, then slipped one into her own arm like she'd forgotten it wasn't hers. We're going to look so good together walking down that aisle. Sophia said nothing. She simply nodded. When Jasmine left, closing the door behind her, Sophia locked it again and leaned her back against the wood. Her breath came slow. She walked to the mirror, touching the bouquet that lay waiting on the dresser. It was full of cream roses and baby's breath, tied with a satin ribbon. Hidden inside the blooms was the small Bluetooth audio device she had tested 3 times already. Once she had the mic in her hand, she'd only need one button. Sophia lifted the bouquet, held it against her chest, and whispered, Not every bride gets to walk into her freedom, but I will. Downstairs, Marcus Kane was already playing the role of a lifetime. Dressed in a wine-colored suit with polished shoes, he looked every bit the picture of a perfect groom. He stood near the front porch, shaking hands with uncles, clapping the backs of cousins, flashing that smile that could disarm anyone. Today is your day, Marcus, one groomsman said. Marcus laughed. When a man knows what he wants, he takes it. Jasmine lingered nearby in her golden dress, pretending to take photos of the flower arrangements. But every now and then, her eyes slid toward Marcus. When their gazes met, she bit her lower lip and looked away quickly. To anyone else, it seemed like nerves. But to Sophia, watching from upstairs through the window, it was confirmation. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't broken. She was ready. At 9:15, her father entered her room holding a white leather Bible. His face was calm, his eyes tired from sleepless nights of preparation. My daughter, he said gently, let me pray with you. Sophia rose, folding her hands over her belly. Her father closed his eyes and began, Father, tomorrow is the beginning of a new chapter. May this marriage be filled with peace, love, and loyalty. Sophia bowed her head, but inside her heart whispered a different prayer. Let truth be louder than his lies. When the prayer ended, her father kissed her forehead. Amen. Sophia opened her eyes slowly, her voice steady. Amen. But her gaze was sharp when she turned back to the mirror. By 10 the convoy of cars lined the driveway. Engines rumbled. Chauffeurs straightened their ties. Flower girls skipped with baskets in hand. The house pulsed with excitement as guests filled the courtyard, their laughter echoing under the Georgia sun. Inside her bridal car, Sophia sat still as stone. Her makeup artist had finished hours ago. Her face glowed flawless, but her expression was unreadable. Her gown flowed around her like water, and her veil draped lightly over her shoulders. Her father leaned close. Are you ready, my daughter? Sophia turned her head slowly, her eyes calm, her grip tightening around the bouquet. Yes, Daddy, she whispered. I'm ready. The door opened. Sunlight spilled inside. The crowd outside erupted in cheers as Sophia stepped out of the car. Children shouted, The bride is here! Phones flashed. Guests craned their necks to see her, gasping at how radiant she looked. She looks like a queen, someone whispered. God really took his time on her. Another added. Sophia walked forward, every step deliberate. Her face was calm, but her eyes held a quiet fire. To the crowd, she looked nervous. To Marcus, she looked angelic. But inside, she was sharpening her blade. Marcus's face lit up when he saw her approaching the church. He leaned toward his best man. She came. I was starting to think she'd change her mind. The man chuckled. You're lucky, bro. Not every woman will carry your child and still look this good. Marcus grinned wider, his arrogance glowing as bright as the sun. Jasmine, standing nearby, adjusted her dress and tried to keep her smile steady. But the way her hands trembled on her phone betrayed her. She recorded quietly, still not realizing the recording that would matter most wasn't in her hands. Inside the church, the decorations sparkled. Cream flowers and pink ribbons lined the altar. A giant banner stretched across the stage. Welcome to the wedding of Marcus Kane and Sophia Carter. Guests filled every pew, fanning themselves with programs, whispering about how beautiful the day was. The choir tested microphones. Ushers fixed crooked chairs. Everything looked perfect, on the surface. Sophia walked in, the organ swelling softly. Heads turned, eyes widened. People gasped. She floated down the aisle like she was born for this moment. Marcus couldn't stop smiling, whispering to his best man, "She looks amazing." He had no idea what was coming. The church was hushed in awe as Sophia reached the altar. Every pair of eyes followed her steps. Every breath seemed a pause. Her veil shimmered softly under the lights. Her gown flowed like liquid silk behind her. To the congregation, she looked like a bride walking into forever. To Sophia, she was walking into war. Marcus stood tall beside her, his smile wide, his hand twitching slightly as if he couldn't wait to grab hers. He leaned toward her and whispered, "You look like an angel." Sophia's face didn't change. She only nodded, her fingers tightening around the bouquet that hid her weapon. Pastor Williams stepped forward, his Bible resting on the podium. His voice was warm, filled with ceremony. "Good morning, beloved family and friends. Today we gather in the sight of God to unite Marcus Kane and Sophia Carter in holy matrimony. A day where love wins, where two become one." Applause rippled through the crowd. Sophia heard it as static. Her heartbeat was louder, steadier, relentless. The pastor continued, speaking of trust, unity, the sacred bond of marriage. Sophia stood still, her eyes locked on Marcus. He looked so perfect, so polished, as if he hadn't shattered her world less than 12 hours ago. The irony nearly made her laugh. Finally, Pastor Williams turned to Marcus. "Groom, it is time for your vows." Marcus smiled proudly, taking the microphone. He looked at Sophia as if he were gazing at a dream. His voice dripped with practiced sincerity. "Sophia, from the first day I met you, I knew you were special. You brought peace into my life. You brought joy. You brought me a future. You carry our child. And with each day you carry more of my heart. I promise to love you, protect you, and stand by your side forever." The church erupted in soft gasps and claps. Women dabbed their eyes with tissues. Marcus handed the microphone back with the smug confidence of a man who thought he had won. Now it was Sophia's turn. Pastor Williams smiled at her. "Bride, your vows, please." For a moment, Sophia didn't move. The pause stretched, making the room shift with unease. Then, slowly, she lifted the microphone, but instead of speaking, her hand slid down into her bouquet. Her thumb pressed the hidden button. The speakers crackled. The congregation leaned in, expecting a romantic song or a heartfelt surprise. Instead, Marcus's voice boomed through the church. "Sophia is too emotional these days. Always talking about our future. I'm only marrying her because of the baby. If she wasn't pregnant, I'd be out." The sound ripped through the silence like thunder. Gasps echoed across the pews. Faces turned pale. Phones flew into the air. Recording. Then came Jasmine's giggle, sharp and mocking. "You're wicked." Marcus's voice followed, cruel and calm. "She thinks this is love, but she's nothing without that baby. Once the wedding's done, I'll control everything." More laughter, moaning, kissing sounds. The church erupted. People shouted. Some stood. Others covered their mouths in horror. "Is that Marcus?" someone cried. "Oh my God, that's his voice! What is happening?" Marcus's face drained of color. His hand shot out for the microphone, but Pastor Williams blocked him. eyes wide with disbelief. "What is this?" he demanded. Sophia's voice cut through the chaos. Calm, sharp, deadly. "This is what happened last night while I was home praying for today." She turned to the crowd, her veil falling back from her face. "That was recorded in room 712 at the Marriott Hotel. My groom, the man you all came to celebrate, spent the night with another woman. Not just any woman," she turned, pointing toward the bridesmaids' row, "but with my cousin, Jasmine Carter, maid of honor, bridesmaid, and the woman he betrayed me with." The church exploded. Screams, shouts, phones flashing. Someone fainted. A chair tipped over in the back row. Women shook their heads, muttering prayers under their breath. Jasmine froze, her face draining of blood. She tried to slip quietly out of her seat, but Sophia's voice rang out, clear and unshakable. "Don't bother, Jasmine. Everyone deserves to see the woman who smiled in my face while sleeping with the man I carried a child for." All eyes turned on Jasmine. She collapsed back into her seat, covering her face with her trembling hands. Marcus staggered forward, his voice cracking. "Sophia, please, it's not what you think." "Not what I think," she snapped, stepping back from him. Her voice rose, steady and strong. "I heard your voice. I heard you laugh about controlling me, about using me. I lay awake dreaming of us while you lay in bed with her. And now you dare to say it's not what I think?" "Let me explain," Marcus begged, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Don't touch me," Sophia spat, pulling her hand away before he could reach her. Pastor Williams looked shattered, clutching his Bible like it might hold him up. Never in his 20 years had he seen a bride dismantle a groom on the altar. Sophia lifted the microphone once more, her voice carrying across the stunned congregation. "I came here today believing I was marrying love. Instead, I found betrayal. I will not marry a liar. I will not tie my life to a man who mocks me, who mocks this child." She slid the engagement ring off her finger and let it fall to the floor. The tiny metallic clink echoed like a gunshot. "I walk away today not broken, not ashamed, but free." The crowd gasped again. Then, slowly, applause began, at first hesitant, then louder, stronger, until the church roared with claps and cries. Sophia turned to the choir. Her voice was calm, commanding. "You may start singing, but not for a wedding. Sing for freedom." The choir obeyed, voices rising in a hymn that filled the church with trembling power. Sophia lifted her gown slightly, bouquet still in hand, and walked down the aisle. Alone, proud, her face serene, her eyes shining with unbreakable strength. Guests stood to their feet, clapping, some crying, some whispering prayers. Phones recorded every step. Outside, the sun hit her face, warm and blinding. She took a deep breath of fresh air, the weight of the church falling away behind her. Her baby kicked softly, as if in applause. For the first time in days, and Sophia smiled. The church hall, once filled with laughter and gospel music, now sat in stunned silence. The echoes of Sophia's recording still seemed to hang in the air. Even though she had already walked out, people whispered furiously, heads bent together, eyes darting toward Marcus and Jasmine like daggers. Marcus remained frozen at the altar, his body stiff, his face pale, his mouth opened as if to speak, but no words came out. Sweat dripped down the side of his temple, ruining the perfect image he had crafted. His mother, Mrs. Kane, stormed toward him, her face twisted with fury. She gripped his arm so hard that even from a distance, guests could see her knuckles whiten. "Marcus Kane," she hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Tell me it's a lie. Tell me this is not your voice that the entire church just heard." "Mama, he stammered. She slapped his shoulder with the back of her hand. "Shut your mouth. You brought shame to this family. Shame to me. Shame to God's altar." Gasps rippled again. Some of the older women fanned themselves frantically, muttering, "Blood of Jesus! Blood of Jesus!" Pastor Williams lowered his Bible slowly, his face ashen. Never in his years of service had he seen anything like this. He sank onto a chair, shaking his head. "Lord, have mercy," he whispered. Meanwhile, Jasmine was trying to escape through the side aisle. She held her dress up with trembling fingers, her face half hidden behind her shaking hand. But before she could reach the door, two women from the choir blocked her path. "You think you can just walk out after what you did?" One of them snapped. "You betrayed your own blood." Another added, her eyes burning. "Please," Jasmine stammered, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean—" "You didn't mean to spend the whole night in room 712? Someone shouted from the back. The church erupted in shouts again. Dozens of phones captured Jasmine's terrified face. She shrank into herself, her confidence shattered. Outside, Sophia stood in the sunlight, her bouquet hanging loosely by her side. The breeze caught her veil, lifting it gently as cameras clicked from every angle. People gathered around her, some afraid to approach, others rushing forward. A woman from her father's church came close, her eyes wide with both shock and admiration. "Sophia, my daughter, are you okay?" Sophia met her gaze steadily. "I will be." Another voice rang out from the crowd. "What happened inside? Is the wedding canceled?" Someone else answered before Sophia could. "Canceled! She exposed him. The groom was cheating with her cousin." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Some of the guests who hadn't even entered the church yet ran back to their cars, whispering into their phones. Sophia's father appeared at her side, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "My daughter," he said softly, "let's go home." But Sophia shook her head. Her eyes, sharp and alive, stayed locked on the church doors. "I'm not done yet," her father frowned. "But what else is left? You've already said everything. You walked out." Sophia's lips tightened. "There's one more thing." When she walked back into the church, the air shifted again. The silence was deafening. Guests moved aside, making space for her, their eyes following her every step like she was some avenging queen returning to deliver judgment. Marcus took a step toward her, desperation flooding his face. "Sophia, please, I know what I did was wrong, but don't walk away like this. We can fix it." Sophia's eyes burned into his. "Fix it? You think you can mock me, use me, laugh at me with another woman, and then fix it?" She turned to Pastor Williams. "Sir, may I speak one last time?" The pastor nodded numbly and handed her the microphone. Sophia faced the congregation, her voice steady and strong. "I want to speak not just for myself, but for every woman who has ever been lied to, for every woman who carried a man's child while he carried secrets, for every woman who trusted love and was paid with betrayal." She looked Marcus dead in the eyes. "I gave you everything, my heart, my time, my body, my child. I defended you when others warned me, and still, you laughed behind my back with another woman." Then she turned, her eyes locking on Jasmine, who sat trembling in shame. "Blood should protect, not betray. You weren't just my cousin. You were my sister. And still, you did this." Jasmine lowered her head, unable to respond. Sophia lifted her chin high. "This wedding cannot continue. I will not marry a liar. I will not bind myself to betrayal." The pastor, shaken but respectful, nodded slowly. "It is your right, daughter." Sophia handed the microphone back, then pressed her palm gently against her belly. Her voice softened, but it carried to every corner of the church. "I may walk out of here alone, but I walk out whole, not broken, not ashamed. I am still a bride, just not to a liar." Applause erupted, louder than before, rolling through the church like a storm. Some clapped, some wept, Some shouted her name. The choir began to sing again, this time their voices rising not for a wedding, but for freedom. Sophia walked out once more, this time with thunder behind her. By evening, as the video had already spread across social media, guests had uploaded it within minutes of the scandal. The hashtags flew like wildfire. The bride who walked. Room 702, she, altar bombshell. Clips of Sophia's calm voice exposing Marcus played on phones in living rooms, restaurants, even taxicabs across Atlanta. By midnight, the story had crossed state lines. By morning, it was global. Sophia Carter was no longer just a bride. She was a symbol. But for Marcus, the nightmare had only begun. By the second day, his main investor, Uncle Raymond, officially announced his withdrawal from Marcus Kane's company. News outlets picked it up immediately. Investor pulls out after viral wedding scandal. Contracts were canceled one by one. Business partners refused to take his calls. Suppliers stopped delivering goods. Employees began quitting, unwilling to be associated with his name. Within a week, Marcus's empire was crumbling. What had taken him years to build collapsed in days, not because of a market crash, but because of his own arrogance. Jasmine suffered her own humiliation. Her family disowned her, forbidding her from attending gatherings. Her father shouted at her until his voice cracked, calling her a disgrace. Her mother refused to speak to her at all. Online, her name was cursed in comments sections. Her Instagram flooded with messages. Homewrecker, betrayer, shame on you. She shut off her phone, but it didn't stop the whispers in her neighborhood. She couldn't step outside without heads turning, people muttering, children pointing, and in the silence of her room, she wept, alone. Sophia, on the other hand, found herself rising from the ashes of betrayal with unexpected strength. Messages flooded her inbox, not of pity, but of admiration. One read, "You don't know me, but you saved me. I've been trapped in an abusive marriage for years. Yesterday, when I saw you walk out, I packed my things and left. Thank you for reminding me that I matter." Another, "My husband has cheated on me for months. I stayed because I was afraid. But you showed me courage. Today, I told him I'm leaving. Thank you." Sophia read them in silence, tears finally slipping down her cheeks, not from pain, but from a strange kind of peace. She opened her laptop and began to type. The Bride Who Walked, a blog where women could share their stories of betrayal, survival, and strength. Her first post was simple. "I wore the white gown, but I didn't marry shame. I walked, and that was the best decision of my life." Tutanom. Within hours, stories poured in from women across the country. By the end of the week, thousands had read it. By the end of the month, it had become a movement. The days that followed the scandal felt strangely quiet for Sophia Carter. The Carter home, once bursting with relatives shouting and cousins running through the halls, now carried a gentler sound. No wedding chatter, no gospel music, just the rhythm of normal life returning. But Sophia was not the same woman. Her belly had grown heavier, her baby shifting more each day. And with every kick, she was reminded that the story wasn't over. It was just beginning. One morning, Sophia sat by the window, sipping warm tea. The veil she had refused to wear now hung crumpled on the back of a chair. Her bouquet had long been dismantled, its cream roses wilted in the trash. On her wall, the invitation that once announced her marriage was gone. In its place was a handwritten note she had taped up. "Peace is better than a fake forever." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Another notification. Another message from a stranger. She had stopped counting after the first 500. Women from all over the country, and even some from abroad, were writing to her, thanking her for what she had done. One message caught her eye. It was from a woman named Ada. "You don't know me, but I want to thank you. I was in a marriage where I was nothing but a servant. Yesterday, I left. You gave me the courage to walk. God bless you." Sophia held the phone against her chest, closing her eyes. Tears slid down her cheeks quietly this time. They weren't tears of loss. They were tears of purpose. That afternoon, her father walked into the living room with a newspaper. "Daughter," he said, holding it up, "you made the front page again." Sophia frowned, taking the paper. The headline read, "From betrayed bride to brave voice, Sophia Carter inspires thousands." She laughed softly. "They'll get tired of me soon." Her father shook his head. "Not when you're giving women a reason to stand." He sat beside her, his face serious. "I never told you this, but when I first married your mother, I wasn't faithful at the beginning. She forgave me. I changed. But deep down, I know she should have made me pay for my mistakes. She deserved more than quiet suffering." Sophia looked at him with wide eyes. "Daddy?" He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did what your mother couldn't. You chose yourself, and I am proud of you." By the second week, Sophia's blog, The Bride Who Walked, had over 20,000 followers. Women shared their stories of heartbreak, betrayal, survival. Sophia read each one, responding when she could, sometimes staying up past midnight typing messages of encouragement. Her cousin Jasmine's name became infamous online. She was called everything from traitor to homewrecker. Her own family turned their backs on her. Even Marcus, once her secret pride, refused to take her calls. Marcus himself had lost everything. His company folded. Investors vanished. Former employees packed their belongings and left. By the time Sophia heard the news, Marcus was living in a small one-room apartment, his beard unshaven, his suits pawned for cash. But she didn't gloat. When her friend Udo showed her the headlines, "Marcus Kane's company closes doors after wedding scandal," Sophia only shook her head. "I didn't destroy him," she said quietly. "He destroyed himself." Then came the night that would change her life forever. It was raining hard, the sky flashing with thunder. Sophia was folding baby towels in her bedroom when a sharp pain pulled her forward. She grabbed the edge of the chair, breathing hard. Another wave of pain hit, stronger this time. Her mother rushed in, eyes wide. "It's time!" Sophia nodded, her face pale but determined. "Call the driver. We need to go." Within minutes, she was in the car, her father holding her hand tightly in the back seat. "You're strong," he said, his voice steady. "Just breathe." The city lights blurred through the rain-splattered windows as the car raced to the hospital. Each contraction came like fire, ripping through her body. But through the pain, Sophia whispered to her unborn child, "We made it. You and me. We made it." At the hospital, nurses rushed her into the delivery room. The lights were bright, the sheets cold. A young nurse named Bianca smiled reassuringly. "You're doing great, ma'am. Just a little more." Sophia gritted her teeth, sweat pouring down her face. Hours passed like minutes. The pain was endless, her body breaking open, but her spirit refusing to surrender. And then, a cry pierced the room, a loud, healthy wail that cut through every ache. "It's a girl." Troy, the nurse announced, holding up the tiny, wriggling miracle. Sophia's tears came in floods. When they placed the baby in her arms, the world went quiet. The betrayal, the scandal, the shame, it all faded. All she saw was her daughter's small face, her innocent eyes blinking up at her. "She's perfect," her mother whispered, standing at her side. Sophia smiled weakly. "Her name is Grace, Grace Carter," because that's what the child was. Grace after chaos, a new beginning born from ashes. News of Grace's birth spread quickly. Messages, flowers, gifts poured in. Even Pastor Williams sent a handwritten note. "You may not have stood before the altar, but you have walked into something greater. May God bless you and your daughter." Sophia smiled as she read it. 1 week later, she sat under a tree in her family's compound, nursing Grace in her arms. Her father approached, carrying another newspaper. He handed it to her with a proud smile. The headline read, "From Broken Bride to Bold Mother, the story of Sophia and baby Grace." Sophia laughed softly. "They'll never let me rest." Her father kissed her forehead. "Not when they're watching a queen rise." Sophia returned to her blog, now writing while Grace slept in her crib beside her. Her posts grew longer, deeper, more powerful. She wrote about healing, about dignity, about walking away when love became chains. She titled her first book, "The Vows I Kept for Myself." It sold thousands of copies online within weeks. Invitations began to arrive. Universities, churches, women's groups, all asking Sophia to come and speak. The first time she stood on the stage, she wore a simple blue gown, Grace strapped to her chest, sleeping peacefully. The hall was packed, students, mothers, even men who came curious to hear the woman who had walked away. Sophia held the microphone, her voice calm and clear. "My name is Sophia Carter. I was supposed to be someone's wife. Instead, I became something better, myself. I was pregnant, in love, and blind. But I saw the truth in time. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It means you understand your worth. And I want every woman here to know, you are not small. You are not shame. You are enough." The hall erupted in applause. Some cried openly. Others whispered prayers of thanks. For many, it was more than a speech. It was permission to choose themselves. Meanwhile, Marcus watched from the shadows of his new life. He sat on a plastic chair in his cramped apartment. His phone cracked at the corner. He found a video of Sophia speaking at a conference. He played it halfway, listening to her strong, steady voice. He paused the video and stared at the wall. He knew then that he hadn't just lost a wedding. He had lost a woman people would write books about, and there was no way to ever get her back. One night, Sophia lay in bed beside Grace, who was now 3 months old. The baby's breathing was soft, steady, peaceful. Sophia scrolled through messages on her blog. One caught her breath. "Dear Sophia, I was going to end my life last month, but your story gave me something to live for. Thank you." Sophia placed the phone down, tears sliding silently across her cheeks. She kissed Grace's forehead and whispered, "You saved me, my child, and now I'll spend my life saving others." The moonlight spilled gently into the room, washing mother and daughter in silver light. And in that moment, Sophia knew. Her story had never been about Marcus, or Jasmine, or betrayal. It was about rebirth, about grace, about rising from ashes and carrying others with her. If Sophia's courage moved you, share her story. Someone out there might need to hear that they are strong enough to walk away. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join our community for more powerful stories of strength and survival.